Right, so we're on our MGmetre, probably more or less exactly like what we normally would have as Austin Metro, but this one's an MG. And what we're going to be doing is depressurizing the Hydragas suspension, because we're going to be doing the ball joints and knuckle joints, and hopefully have a separate video for that. But I thought I'd show you us depressurizing the suspension, as we showed you on a rover metro, commonly sort of we know them as the K series rover metros. Now on the Austin metros and this the MGmetre, which is from that same era, the Hydragas suspension is slightly different, because on the rover metros, normally the K series, the front and back driver side were connected and the front and back passenger side was connected. And on the Austin metros, the A series metros, the suspension is done differently, as the front Hydragas units are actually completely separate. So the valve on those is literally on the unit themselves, and on the back the two are pumped up from an adjoining pipe. Now it's a very small pipe, so we think very little fluid swaps between the two, maybe a small amount. It's mainly for topping them up. They do get depressurized and pumped up together. So on the front they're separately, so you've actually got 3 points where you can depressurize one or pump up, one on each side at the front under the engine, and this is on the driver's side here. Normally there'd be a cap on there, but we've already removed that, and we'll probably try and get a better cap because it was pretty rusty. The one will be the same on the other side, and then the one at the back, which we will probably try and show you as well, but at the moment we're just depressurizing the fronts. And what we'll also probably do is remove these units, check all around them and paint them, and I may include that in this video as we're doing the depressurizing, and then at the end we'll show you us pumping them up. This is the pump we've got, and this pump you'd have seen us use, as I say, on our GTA K series metro when we did it. And this pump allows you to depressurize and re-pump up the tanks there with the fluid in it. And here's the pressure gauge there, which will be more relevant when we're pumping it up, although this will tell us the pressure that's in the units, and it will also show us when we've got the pressure out of both front units as well. This is the valve switch, I suppose you'd call it, and that will let us, once we've got it connected, open up the pressure from the system to put it back into here, and also you then move it into a different position for pumping up. And what it'll do is put the fluid back into the tank. So possibly if the fluid's unknown, you might not necessarily want it to mix with good fluid. As far as I'm aware, we have pumped this one up before, so hopefully the fluid's not too bad in there. Right, so before we put the valve onto the unit, I thought I'd just show you how it works. Basically, this on the top, you wind in to open the valve, and then you have it out when you want to close the valve. But before that, you've got to turn it onto the valve using this here, and then you want to make sure this valve is in the out position, so that as you're doing this up, you're not actually releasing any pressure, because it will just sort of pour out, because this won't be sealed. Once you've got this done up so it's sealed, then you can then wind this down to release the pressure from the unit into the pipe, which will then be stopped by that valve before you depressurize it. In many ways it's similar kind of to when we do the air conditioning, only that's got a quick release and this has got a threaded part to attach it, but the actual where you wind it down to open the valve and wind it out is similar to that, and it's a common way of doing these kind of valves, which is down there. So what we do is get that attached and show you the process we do. Right, so hopefully you can see us there. We're putting it on the valve and then tightening that little collar there onto the thread so it does up and seals. Right, so we've now got that on sort of hand tight or finger tight, turning that collar there, obviously with this in the fully wound out position. So as I said, as you're doing this up, you're not then pushing the valve in at the same time. Really important to do that. I mean, essentially it is kind of like a tyre pressure valve, but it's holding back the pressure of the fluid. So as always, it is high pressure fluid, so we're following the instructions to the pump and also the Haynes manual, as we always do. And this is kind of like a chance for you to see the visual process before you can do it, or to help you doing it. And I find it always useful with a visual sort of look at what's involved in a job. So hopefully that sort of helps you. It's kind of not much use unless you've got this pump, but if you have got this pump or can borrow it, or thinking of buying the pump because you've got more than one metre, this sort of shows you what's involved and whether you think it's worth sort of doing. So now it's finger tight. All we've got to do is just do it up with a spanner to make sure it definitely is on tight and sealed. Obviously you don't want to over tighten it because you'll damage the thread, which has got to be tight enough so it definitely seals and the pressure can't force it off. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Right, so now we've got that nice and tight and sealed. What we're doing is just checking that our little valve switch is in the closed position, because we don't want the fluid to just suddenly be released into the tank, because we want to be able to see the pressure. Because this Metro is up on axle stands, it's not got the weight of the car, which is normally how you'd pump it up to a height between the middle of the wheel and the wheel arch, and also the pressure on your pump, and kind of get that best balance that you can, because we're not in that situation because it's up on stands, because we've had this off the road for a while, doing little bits on it, and also we didn't want to use it as an everyday car anymore. We want to do lots of little bits, so we're not going to let it back down on the ground just for this. So we're going to keep a little note of the pressure, so we initially, when we pump it up, can pump it up to that pressure so it's round about roughly right. But again, once it's down on the ground, we'd have to check everything. But because it's off the ground and we're going to be pumping up to check everything's okay when it goes back, we're taking a note of that pressure. So we want to see that, but you'd want to do it this process anyway, even if you weren't doing it that way. So now we've checked that is in the closed position, that valve. We're now going to open this valve, and what you're essentially doing is winding in that little pin, which will push the middle of the valve in, just like a tyre valve, or even, as I say, similar in some ways to when we do air conditioning. Very, very similar.
The valve should start to read now.
So hopefully, I think we heard the fluid starting to come down this pipe, and the valve should be starting to read. So the gauge is now reading, so we're going to be taking a note of that, and it more or less is on the 200 on that gauge. It is there, so we'll be taking a note of that, because that's giving us an initial gauge on the pressure whilst there's no weight on the car, so we can kind of perhaps take it up to around about that, knowing it's not too much but enough pressure that's similar to what it was before. Right, so just mop that little bit of fluid up that's weeping, where we probably haven't used the pumper in a while, but it's now stopped. So what we're going to do now is turn this valve to the open position, and what that will do is then release the pressure, and you'll see it on this gauge, into the tank. So we'll just steadily turn the valve. I can get it so we can see the valve being turned and my hand in the right place. Yeah, so hopefully there you can see that we've turned it steadily to the open position, and that's let the fluid drain out and all the pressure steadily drain out, and just the last bit is draining out at the moment. And you can see there the valve there, and this little bit of fluid there is just what dripped out of this pipe when we were initially connecting it, but there shouldn't be any leaks there at all. Probably well worth wearing goggles when you're doing this as well, just in case any of the fluid does spray up through some sort of reason, a bit like as I say, when we do the air conditioning, we do a similar sort of thing. Just come down to the suspension here, and because the car is jacked up and the wheels off, it would have already been fully down, although it might have moved up slightly, and perhaps we'll show you when we're depressurising the other side from that view, it wouldn't have moved up that much. The thing is, if you were depressurising it on the ground with the weight of the car you'd physically see dropping down, and technically the wheel coming up into the wheel arch, and that would get rid of any excess fluid and any excess pressure. Well, that hasn't happened in this case because we've got the car up on axle stands, so there isn't that sort of the natural weight of the car pushing the fluid out. So what we will do is jack this bit of the suspension up just a little bit to make sure that any excess fluid or pressure does come out, kind of representing as though the car was on the ground. And I would have thought in a lot of cases this might be the situation you're in, because probably if you're working on the car, you'll already have it jacked up, especially if you're doing lots of different bits of work on a car. So I thought it's well worth us showing how we're doing it, because it's a situation that's probably more common possibly than the car being on the ground. And the other thing is, if you had it on the ground and used the weight of the car to drop it down, the car would then be so low you'd have a job getting a jack under the car to then jack it up. So I'd imagine this would be a fairly common way of doing it, or a situation you might find yourself in. Right, so as I was saying, what we're now going to do is just pump the suspension up as though the weight of the car had let the car sink down and the wheel come up under the wheel arch to get out any last fluid and pressure. We're just doing it with a little hydraulic bottle jack there just underneath, and pumping it up. And then if we come back up,
where the knuckle joint is now.
and if we come back up there where our valve is still on, and you won't obviously see anything on the gauge because the pressure's already gone. What you will notice is the gauge now is, as we're pumping the suspension, is now right down on the 0, so it's well worth not rushing to just disconnect everything. Give it a bit of time, the pressure will completely go, and as I said, we're pumping or jacking the suspension up as we've just been showing you under the car here, just to make sure that there is no extra pressure there, and also it hopefully will get out any extra fluid, because what we don't want to do when we remove it is have any extra fluid in the system or the valve there that can pressurise out. Right, so out of interest, and we've just stopped pumping the suspension up before it affects that, is that there is the knuckle joint that we're changing. Hopefully you can see it there in the middle of the screen, and you can see that very small ring of almost shiny chrome metal there, and that lets us know when the suspension was depressurised, that dropped down and lets us know it's not seized in there, because they can be seized in, and it also lets you see what we're changing. And we're also going to be changing the ball joint top and bottom, because while we're there, it's certainly worth on this car us changing all that as well. And as I said, hopefully there'll be separate videos, but I thought we'd just show you that as part of this process of us depressurising the suspension.
Here's the fluid going out.
Right, so hopefully you can just about hear that possibly not. As we're jacking it up, you can hear the last of that fluid coming out. So for us, that shows it was worth what we'd normally do, pumping that up just to get any last fluid out and any pressure that might still be there, even though the gauge is reading 0, because they are quite high pressures, and some of those last bits may not necessarily show up. So we want to make sure that that was definitely the case there. Right, so what I thought I'd cover as part of us depressurizing the suspension and then showing you us repressurizing it is us removing the displacer unit as part of this video. Now hopefully we'll have some videos on us removing the hub and doing the ball joints and the knuckle joint, as I said, which again is one of the reasons for moving this. But I thought in this little video I'd show you just us removing the displacer unit with us doing those bits. So hopefully you can see there's the rubber bump stop in the middle of the screen, and there's a plate there where 4 bolts go. I've already moved the bottom 2, and now we're just going to remove the top 2, and that should let it come out and hopefully give you a little better look at everything as well then. So we're going to do this one how we've done the others. I've got a spanner on the back, and we're going to undo the bolt from the bracket.
Right, you ready?
Yes. Right, so that's that bolt out there, and we're just doing the one over the back side, which is a little bit more difficult for us to show you, although we might be able to do it from under the wheel arch. Right, so that's now the 4 bolts removed, hopefully you can see, and now this plate should come away to reveal more of the displacer unit, and hopefully you can see the sort of bracketry it sits in, and then if we pull out you can see the bracket we were trying to remove there, and you can see how it's sitting still in its place, even with that bracket removed. Right, so we're now going to remove it out. A job for us to show you in the wheel arch and remove it at the same time. Hopefully you can see the void. Right, so there is the displacer unit there, and that is the top end, and that's the bottom end that goes on the suspension, and you can see there's the little spring there. We may put something protective round, because although it's been depressurized a long time ago, we did have one where that end did still sort of fly out, and although it wasn't really powerful, it still could have been bad if you were sort of looking up at it at the time it did it. As I say, this has been properly depressurized, so that shouldn't happen, but yeah, it's one we're always cautious about, and of course, like I said, we don't want to lose that little spring there. But there is the displacer unit out. If I just put it down here on this toolbox, you can see there the bit that's normally on show under the engine, and the bit that's surrounded by the bracket. And if we come under the wheel arch, I'll just show you where it's been sitting. Right, so now we're back under the wheel arch, and you can see there the bracket and the void where it went, and you can see there the knuckle, which is what we want to change. As I said, hopefully we'll show you that in a slightly different video, but I thought it'd be worth including us removing the displacer and us covering it, painting it before we repressurize everything up after we've done all the other jobs. Right, so now we've got it out, I thought I'd give you a better look of the suspension Hydragas unit in the daylight, and there is where we had the pump on to depressurize it. What we're doing now is just giving it a little clean up, removing that rust so we can get it painted and make it look a lot better, a lot neater, and hopefully protect it in the future. And what we've done also is just took the rubber boot off so that doesn't get damaged while we're cleaning it. Right, so as part of cleaning the suspension Hydragas unit, I want to cover us cleaning the bracket as well, because there's something that I thought might be worth showing you, especially as it might be something you need to change or want to change, is the rubber bump stop and how that comes apart. It's held in with one of these clips, so we've removed that clip, and then all you need to do is just tap out the little metal core that goes into the rubber bump stop, and it comes out. And the reason we're removing it is so that basically we can wire brush it or paint it without damaging or getting paint on that rubber block. So I thought that was well worth covering, because we'd sort of not realised that was the way that had come out, and it's a lot simpler way of getting it out than we'd thought. So yeah, it's well worth that little bit of effort to remove it, to clean it, or if you do need to replace it as well. Yeah, and hopefully you can see there the little slot in the piece of metal where the C-clip goes in and grips that rubber stop. So we'll put that with all our little bits and get on with cleaning that. So hopefully now we've cleaned it, you can see that groove a little bit better, and you can see the C-clip there as well. Right, so what we've done is remove the radiator bottle, the cooling system bottle, to give us a little bit more access, because the metal cap that's on there's a little bit tight coming off. But if you want lots of access, it's probably well worth doing. The radiator bottle is only 2 fixings, so it's not too bad. But of course, you're going to lose your water in your system, and that main pipe and the little feedback pipe, we've removed that from the thermostat housing, and that's just hopefully, as you can see, give us a lot more space to get in there. So we've now got the pump connected so we can depressurize this side, and that gives you a good look at where the placement is of the port on the suspension on the passenger side. And of course we did most of the depressurizing and all the information on the driver's side, and we're just making a quick note that the pressure is about 200.5 roughly, so we know where that one was when we come to repressurize it as well. So yeah, as I said, not doing everything as much detail this side, but I thought I'd just show you to give you a rough idea where it was and what we removed out the way to gain better access, just as on this side we'd removed the battery and the battery tray. Right, so as I'm editing this video, I think actually it's going to work better as 2 separate videos. So I think we'll stop it here, because that's covered us depressurizing the front suspension on our A-series Austin Metro, MGmetre, and also showing you the displacer unit being removed and us getting it all wire brushed ready to paint. And I think what we'll do is in the next video we cover us painting it, fitting that displacer unit back, of course, on both sides, and then repressurizing it. So don't forget to check out for that video. Don't forget to look at any other videos that we've done on our car collection, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Also have a little look at our Twitter and Instagram page, and don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it, and also to subscribe to the channel.